Welcome back to the Dr. Me Show podcast, where we, try to summarize famous and classical books in under 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And today we're diving into Atomic Habits.
Oh, cool.
By James Clear.
Okay.
Now, this book has sold like over 1 million copies, right?
Oh, wow.
It's been featured on all sorts of bestseller lists like the New York Times, USA Today,
oh, wow.
the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, it even got featured in Fast Company as one of their top business books.
It did.
Yeah.
So clearly this is a popular book,
Yeah.
but what makes it so special?
Right,
What is
yeah.
the core idea here?
I think Clear's main point is that our habits are really the building blocks of our identity.
Okay.
So instead of fixating on goals, he really encourages us to focus on
Okay.
who we want to become.
So instead of saying, I want to lose weight, I should say, I want to be a healthy person.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
powerful
It is.
shift in perspective.
It's about aligning your actions with the person that you envision yourself to be.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you act in accordance with that identity,
Mm-hmm.
it's like casting a vote for that person.
I can see how that could be motivating.
Yeah.
Like, almost like,
Yeah.
like an athlete who trains consistently.
Yeah.
Not just to win a specific competition,
Mm-hmm.
but to truly embody that
That's a great
athlete identity.
example. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Clear takes it even further by suggesting that our daily routines are a reflection of our current identity.
Okay.
So if you want to change your life,
Mm-hmm.
you need to start by changing your habits.
Now, how do we actually go about changing those habits?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the practical side comes in, right?
Absolutely. Clear introduces this fantastic 4-step process that all habits, good or bad, they follow.
Okay.
He calls it cue, craving, response, reward.
Okay, let's break that down. What exactly is a cue?
A cue is basically a trigger that initiates the habit. It could be something as simple as seeing your running shoes by the door, which reminds you it's time for your workout.
So then craving would be that desire to exercise
Yeah.
and feel energized.
Exactly. It's the motivation behind the action.
Okay.
Then comes the response, which is the actual behavior, going for that run.
And finally, the reward, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that feeling of accomplishment and those endorphins
Right.
kicking in after a good workout.
And by understanding this 4-step framework,
Mm-hmm.
we can start to pinpoint the cues, cravings, and rewards that drive our own habits.
Okay.
It helps us become more aware of what's actually happening.
So awareness is key.
Yes.
But what about the actual changing part?
Right.
How do we make or break these habits?
That's where Clear's famous 4 laws of behavior change come in.
Okay.
They're incredibly practical, and they can be applied to just about any habit you can think of.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right.
What's the first law?
The first law is make it obvious. Clear explains that our brains are wired to form habits through repetition.
Uh-huh.
So to make a good habit stick, you need to make the cue super obvious.
So I should basically be tripping over my gym bag every time I leave the house.
Not necessarily tripping,
Okay.
but you get the idea.
Okay.
The more visible and accessible the cue, the
I see.
better.
I
For
see.
example, if you want to read more, leave a book on your couch instead of tucked away on a shelf.
Okay. And what about breaking bad habits?
Yeah.
How does this law apply there?
It's the reverse.
Okay.
You want to make the cue invisible or at least less prominent.
So
So if you're trying to cut down on social media,
uh-huh.
try putting your phone in a drawer when you're working or spending time with family.
Out of sight, out of mind. Right.
Exactly. It's about removing those tempting triggers
Yeah.
from our environment.
But sometimes the cues aren't so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
We might be like mindlessly scrolling
Right.
through our phones without even realizing what triggered it.
Exactly.
So how can we become more aware of those hidden cues?
It takes a bit of self-reflection.
Okay.
Think about the environment, the time of day, or even your emotional state
Mm-hmm.
when a particular habit takes hold.
Okay.
Start noticing those patterns.
That's a great tip. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've made it obvious. Now what? What's the second law?
The second law is make it attractive.
Okay.
And as you might have guessed, dopamine plays a big role here.
Dopamine.
Yeah.
That feel good.
Exactly.
Neurotransmitter. I knew it. Tell me more.
Well, Clear explains that when we anticipate something pleasurable,
Uh-huh.
our brains release dopamine,
Okay.
making us more likely to repeat the behavior.
Okay.
So to make a habit stick, we need to make it appealing, something we actually crave.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. It's like
Yeah.
choosing an activity we genuinely enjoy.
Yes.
Instead of forcing ourselves to do something we dread,
Yeah.
Like, I'd much rather go for a hike with friends than, slog it out.
On a treadmill.
That's the perfect example.
Yeah.
The more enjoyable the activity, the more likely we are to stick with it.
Yeah.
It becomes less about willpower and more about simply wanting to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
On to the third law, which is?
Make it easy.
Okay.
This is where the idea of minimizing friction comes into play.
Okay.
Clear emphasizes the importance of starting small and making the habit as easy as possible to perform.
This sounds promising.
Right.
I'm all about taking the path of least resistance.
And so is our brain.
Yeah.
One of Clear's most popular strategies is the, have you heard of the 2-minute rule?
I have heard of it, but I'd love to hear your take on it.
Okay, so the idea is to break down a new habit into a tiny action that takes no more than 2 minutes to complete.
Okay.
So instead of aiming for a 30-minute workout, you might start with just 2 minutes of stretching.
I love that.
Yeah.
It feels so much less daunting.
It's like tricking your brain into getting started.
Exactly. And once you've overcome that initial inertia, it's much easier to keep going. You've already built some momentum.
This is making me rethink my entire approach to habit change. Like, it's not about making these huge sweeping changes, but about those tiny, consistent actions that compound over time.
That's the beauty of Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Small changes, consistently applied, can lead to remarkable results.
All right, let's wrap up with the final law, which is...
make it satisfying.
Okay, this one seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it is. It is, but it's crucial.
Okay.
Our brains are wired to prioritize immediate rewards.
Okay.
So to reinforce a new habit, we need to make it satisfying in some way. The reward doesn't have to be huge, but it needs to be there.
So if I'm trying to save money, maybe I could transfer a small amount to a fun money account each time I resist an impulse purchase. That little reward would make me feel good about my choice.
Exactly. Yeah. That sense of satisfaction helps solidify the habit.
Okay.
It's about associating the behavior with positive feelings.
Clear's approach is so practical and insightful.
Yeah.
It's not just about understanding habits, but about having the tools to actually change them.
That's what makes this book so popular.
Yeah.
It gives you a framework, a roadmap for creating lasting change in your life.
This has been really eye-opening.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground from the 4-step habit process to those 4 powerful laws of behavior change.
We've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore in Clear's work.
Well, that brings us to the end of part 1
of
our deep dive into Atomic Habits.
Right.
We've laid the groundwork.
Yeah.
Now it's time to delve deeper into Clear's insights.
Okay.
And see how we can apply them to our own lives.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll uncover even more practical tips and strategies for making those atomic habits work for you.
Okay, I'm excited.
Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive into Atomic Habits, where we're uncovering the secrets to building better habits with James Clear as our guide.
We've covered the foundations, Yeah. Now let's get into some really practical strategies.
Okay, give me an example, like how I can put these laws into action.
Okay, let's say you want to stop snacking after dinner.
Okay.
Clear suggests removing all snacks from your kitchen counters and pantry.
Oh, so by making the snacks invisible,
right?
I'm less likely to be tempted. So that's make it obvious in action, right?
Precisely.
Okay.
You're removing the cue, the visual trigger that sparks the craving.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
I can definitely see myself trying that.
Another strategy Clear recommends is something called habit stacking.
Habit stacking? What's that?
Yeah.
It sounds intriguing.
It's about linking a new habit to an existing one.
Okay.
Think of it like hitching a ride on an established routine.
So if I want to start meditating every morning, I could do it right after I brush my teeth.
Exactly.
Since brushing my teeth is already ingrained in my routine,
right?
It would serve as a trigger for meditation.
Yeah. By attaching the new habit to a well-established routine, you increase the likelihood of remembering and doing it.
That's a clever way to make a new habit stick. What else does Clear recommend?
Clear also emphasizes the importance of tracking your progress.
Why is that so important? It seems like just an extra step.
It's more than that.
Okay.
Tracking your habits creates a visual representation of your efforts, which can be incredibly motivating.
It's like watching a plant grow.
Yeah.
You might not see much change from one day to the next, But over time, the progress becomes undeniable.
That's a great analogy. And even those small wins along the way, can fuel your motivation and encourage you to keep going.
This connects back to Clear's whole idea of atomic habits, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It's not about making drastic changes.
Right.
But about those small, consistent efforts that accumulate over time.
Exactly. It's about playing the long game and trusting the process.
Clear also talks about the importance of our environment in shaping our habits.
Yeah.
How does that fit into the picture?
He argues that our surroundings can either support or sabotage our efforts.
Okay.
We need to be mindful of how our environment influences our behavior.
So if I want to eat healthier, I should make sure my fridge is stocked with fresh produce.
Yeah.
And get rid of the junk food.
Exactly. Or if you want to be more productive, create a dedicated workspace that's free from distractions.
It's about making the desired behavior the easiest option, the path of least resistance.
Precisely.
Okay.
By designing our environment to support our goals, we reduce the friction and make it more likely that we'll succeed.
This has been a really helpful discussion. What are some of your key takeaways from Atomic Habits so far?
For me, one of the most important takeaways is that change is possible for anyone.
It's easy to get discouraged when we think about changing our habits.
Yeah.
But Clear's approach makes it feel manageable and even empowering.
Yeah, I agree. By focusing on small, incremental changes, we can gradually build momentum and achieve remarkable results.
Another big takeaway for me is the importance of self-awareness. We need to understand our current habits before we can effectively change them.
Clear reminds us that we're often operating on autopilot, repeating patterns that may no longer serve us.
He has that great quote in the book. One of our greatest challenges in changing habits is maintaining awareness of what we're actually doing.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder to become more mindful of our actions, to really pay attention to what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into Atomic Habits.
We have. We've explored Clear's philosophy of identity-based habits. We delved into the 4-step habit process, and we examined his 4 laws of behavior change.
We've also learned some practical tips for making and breaking habits.
Right.
From habit stacking to designing our environment for success.
Clear's book offers a wealth of wisdom and actionable advice for anyone looking to improve their lives. It's a guidebook for creating positive change.
I'm feeling inspired to start implementing some of these strategies myself.
Me too. It's a reminder that we all have the power to shape our habits and ultimately our destinies.
Before we wrap up this part, I'd like to touch on one more aspect of Clear's work, his emphasis on long-term thinking.
Yes, Clear constantly reminds us that true change takes time and effort. It's not a quick fix.
He encourages us to focus on the process, not just the outcome.
Yeah, it's about building sustainable habits that will serve us well in the long run, not just chasing short-term gains.
He even cautions against setting unrealistic goals that can lead to disappointment and discouragement.
Yeah. Instead, he advocates for setting small, achievable goals that build momentum and create a sense of accomplishment.
This aligns with his overall message of embracing gradual progress and celebrating small wins.
It's a refreshing perspective in a world that often glorifies instant gratification and quick fixes.
Clear reminds us that meaningful change is a journey, not a destination.
And that even small steps taken consistently can lead to remarkable transformations over time.
Well, this has been another insightful discussion.
Yeah.
Filled with practical tips, I feel like I'm starting to understand the power of Atomic Habits.
We're just getting started.
Okay.
There's still more to uncover in the final part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned as we explore more of Clear's insights and discover how to make those tiny changes that can lead to big results in our lives. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Atomic Habits.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring James Clear's insights on habit formation and behavior change.
I feel like we've gained a lot of valuable knowledge and practical tools from this book, and I'm ready to put them to use.
Me too, and I think it's important to highlight that that Atomic Habits isn't just about self-improvement in isolation.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Clear's principles can be applied to all areas of life, from personal growth to professional success to even relationships.
So whether you're trying to improve your health, advance your career, or strengthen your bonds with loved ones. The concepts that we've discussed can be incredibly helpful.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that makes this book so compelling. It offers a universal framework for positive change.
Now, I'm curious to hear what resonated most with you personally from Atomic Habits.
For me, it was Clear's emphasis on the power of small changes over time.
The idea that, like, atomic habits can lead to remarkable results.
It's a reminder that we don't need to make, like, drastic changes overnight to see progress.
We can start with tiny incremental steps and gradually build momentum.
And that even seemingly insignificant actions, repeated consistently, can compound into significant outcomes.
It's like the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And our habits are like the bricks that we use to build our lives.
Speaking of building lives, I think it's important to acknowledge that change isn't always easy, you know?
Absolutely. There will be setbacks and challenges along the way.
But Claire acknowledges this, right?
He does.
And offers strategies for dealing with those inevitable setbacks.
He emphasizes the importance of self-compassion and resilience.
Okay.
He encourages us to view setbacks as learning opportunities, not failures.
And to use them as motivation to adjust our approach and keep moving forward.
Right. It's a reminder that the journey of habit change is a marathon, not a sprint.
And that persistence and determination are key to success.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, I think we've done a pretty thorough job summarizing Atomic Habits.
I think so.
We've explored Clear's key concepts, practical tips, and inspiring message.
We did a good job.
Hopefully, our listeners feel equipped to start implementing some of these strategies in their own lives.
For sure.
Remember, even small changes
can
make a big difference over time.
Absolutely.
And with consistency and effort, anyone can achieve remarkable transformations.
That's the beauty of it.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
On this deep dive into Atomic Habits.
It's been fun.
We hope you found it insightful and motivating.
Yes.
Please share among your friends and family to spread the knowledge.
Spread the word.
And let me know in the comments what books you're interested in for future summaries.
Yeah, what do you want to hear about next?
This has been the Dr. Misha Podcast. Thank you for listening.